Hi Cody, as promised, second part of your lesson, just to compare the before and after, if you will, and this is a very short time period between the two swings. Obviously, I'll guess at less than an hour. Just digesting the changes that we made. We asked you on the left hand side. The advice was to push the pelvis slightly more towards the target, which would create a side bend that was a little bit less towards the target. So rather than having the upper centre ever so slightly out in front of the lower centre, we wanted the opposite, where the lower centre was just pushed forward just a little bit more, keeping the upper centre in the middle of the stance, but just having the lower centre push forward fractionally, which you can see here you've done. There's a couple of degrees, I would say, of side bend between sort of the lower and upper centre in this one. So the pelvis has just been pushed forward a little bit, which is great. The next piece of advice, or the next sort of points to focus on, were the trajectory of the lead knee. We wanted the lead knee to flex downwards towards the target line as it worked inwards. So the turning of the pelvis will bring the knee in, and the flexing forward of the lead knee is adding some tilt to the turn. And then the other sort of point of focus was to get the ear to the ground or the chest to the sky at P4. So pelvis forward, ear to the ground, chest to the sky. Be aware of the effects of the knees. And the reason for that was because during the backswing on the left, the tendency is to lose the inclination to the ground, move off the golf ball, and the lead shoulder's trajectory is level, then working upwards. So there's definitely an extension, there's definitely a turn, but there's insufficient side bend. You could also add some extension, as we talked about, in the neck. So there is an extension, needs to be more, which would allow you to propel the club and the left arm further without lifting the arms. And that extra extension comes in the neck and the pelvis. But there's also some side bend needed to offset the extension. Otherwise, as you can see here, the head starts to work up and away during the backswing. So on the right hand side, this is what we're with, or this is what we've created in a very quick space of time. So feeling is to get the ear to the ground, the chest to the sky, and get the knee to flex towards the target line as it works inwards. You see straight away how much more downwards the lead shoulder's trajectory is. So from its starting point on the orange dot, you can see that the lead shoulder works more down and across, rather than up and across. We take it to about 3.5. Completely different trajectory of the lead shoulder, much different action of the lead knee, and you can see straight away the neck tilt's kicking in. Much more stable position at the top, head staying in the circle, side bending towards the target. So you've gone from a side bend away from the target to a side bend towards the target. That's the extension. You're also tilting the left shoulder down or working the left shoulder down. That's courtesy of the knees changing flex and that little bit of extra extension coming from the neck. Left arm's freedom of travel is increased dramatically. You can see on this one on the right, there's just a tendency for the arms to run out. I mean, that's not going to do you any harm in regards to power. Much more stable, much bigger arc, much better extension of the pelvis. You can see here that the belt buckle is still ever so slightly lower than the back of the belt, whereas here the pelvis has come out of its forward tilt completely. More extension of the trail leg, certainly more extension in the neck, and more extension in the thoracic spine as well. So you're extending more in every segment, offsetting that with some side bend created by the changing flex of the knees and the change direction of the left shoulder during the backswing. Now, it's early stages yet, but we ask you to feel like you're hitting out to the right a little bit more. You said that on the right-hand side that you weren't really focusing on that. You were concentrating a little bit more on the backswing, excuse me, which is fair enough. But your tendency here was to turn really fast, really hard. And you can see there that the side bend now is towards the target. So that's going to tend to lead to quite a steep angle of attack. Right shoulder never really got anywhere near what it was at P1. Stayed very high, causing the wrist angles to come out, creating this side bend that's sort of, if I take it back a frame or two, a little bit too much towards the target. Now from a better position at P4. Still a tendency to turn a little bit too aggressively. But you can see that trail shoulder starting to get back something like to where it was at P1. Much sooner in the downswing. The side bend towards the target, so the left tilt at the top of the backswing is starting to change into a right tilt a little bit sooner during the downswing, and the more you learn to hit out at the ball, the more that's going to start to work its way in. You can see the trail hip doesn't stay as high for as long, so there's a little bit more linear movement going in there. Pelvic tilts at 5.2. Quite match these two up. Pelvis starting to level out a little bit more. Side bend starting to look a little bit more realistic. Lead knee starting to flex a little bit less. Through swing arc starting to get a little bit longer as well. And that's all going to get better as you focus on that hitting out of the ball on the way through. But the big change there from P1 to P4. Chest to the sky, ear to the ground. Pay some attention to that lead knees action during the backswing. Much better position at the top. Well done. Keep me posted. Feel free to fire any questions over as you start to practice this in regards to any feels that you may encounter, any sort of ball flights that you may see out on the golf course, and I'll be interested to watch this one progress over the coming days.